we have brought for you another issue which is very important and which is needed to be learnt about. This topic is how political theory can address issues and challenges, and how so far it has been developed. For this, we would like to tell you how this political theory has been developed so far.
Okay. The idea of political theory is very interesting to understand the social order, social and political order in our day-to-day life, and how politics has changed human life so far. What is the role of politics in our day-to-day life, how political ideas, how political theories are coming, and how they have been contributed towards the organization of human life in such a way that everybody can have a better life than what they used to have earlier. Political theory as a discipline has its history, long memorial, and the starting of political theory we do with the Greek political scientists Plato and Aristotle. Both of them are known as father of political philosophy and father of political science respectively. And if you see entire idea of political, we can find in either Plato's Republic, where the idea of justice has been delivered and idea of city-state has been talked about. From there to Nicomachean Ethics of Aristotle, where he is talking about the summum bonum of life, means ultimate good of the life, highest good of the life. So what is the highest good of the life, and how the highest good of the life can be reached? What are the ways, what are the institutions that required to reach to this good of the life is the vital question for the political theory in general, and political science in general, and political theory in particular. So as we know, political theory means what kind of theory that can be political theory. Is it different from the other social science theory of economics or anthropology or sociology, or it is similar to the those theories of social sciences? Or one can say how a theory can be attached to a subject which is non-experimental in nature, like the natural sciences or like the physical sciences of physics, chemistry or biology. So these are the big questions that the discipline of political theory has faced more than 100 years before. But before coming as a sub-discipline of political science, political theory used to be taught as basically the ideas about institution, and mostly it is the historical mapping out of all the idea related to institution that has been given by various political theorists or various political philosophers in different ages of human civilization. If we see the Greek political science for the first theorists, Plato and Aristotle, who talked about an organized society or the city of, or the life of a city polis, the political city. So first we have to understand what is politics and why politics need political theory. So as we know that the general definition of politics is a process where human beings participate to make their society better than what it is now, and how they can this enhancement of social order can help them. For instance, if thousands of years ago nobody has thought about that one day we will have a government elected by everybody, and everybody must be participating in the decision making process of the government, and that government later on known as the democratic government. So in the demand for democracy, equality, liberty, justice, rights, these are the part and parcel, these are the parts of political theory that has developed through a long journey, and many political philosopher and social philosopher have talked about all these kind of ideas, addressing to the different kind of crisis that the society was facing at their time. For instance, in time of Plato, the entire social order was facing the idea of injustice, and that's why he talked about the idea of justice when he is talking about that human beings have been segregated on the basis of their virtue or ability, and accordingly they should be placed in the social order. So that's why he propounded the idea of philosopher king, because the trial of Socrates forced him to think about a theory on the basis of which entire political institution, particularly the institution of kingship and delivery, justice delivery mechanism, can be designed. And that's why he came with the idea of justice in through philosopher king at the top of the affairs. Similarly, later on, if we see after the Greek political philosophy, the second stage of development of political theory, that is in the medieval time. In medieval time, the entire political philosophy or political theory, I am using these both words, political theory and political philosophy, interchangeably. The reason being the initial stage of political theory has been defined and explained in terms of various philosophical ideas that human beings have required and acquired to change their life, to change their living. And that's why if we see the medieval political theory has been marked by the intervention of religion, either in the Muslim world or in the Christian world or in other parts of the world. Everywhere religion has a direct influence on the king and kingship, and the king courts used to take decision, the political decision of delivering justice, giving right to their citizens, imposing taxes, were decided by the theologian or the church or the Islamic prophet, people who used to control the religious affairs. So the religion and politics was intermingled, and the religious authority also used to direct and sometimes dictate the political authority. So this was a different kind of political theory that we were having in the medieval time. But since ultimately the human reason, the idea of reason and logic came into picture, and people started talking, challenging about the cosmic order or religious order, and they decided that any social arrangement which can be livable, where human being can live and aspire their human life, or they can think of a better society, can only be decided by the human beings themselves. And here started with the idea, the phase of enlightenment, and we can say the Renaissance, after Renaissance, the post-Renaissance period, which is marked by the period of logic. So any theory or any social mechanism or social order we try to invent, or we try to innovate any institution to govern our life, to regulate our life, was based on the idea of rationality, not on the idea of theology or on some cosmic or God-given idea. So this was a major departure from one stand to another stand in the history of political theory. And here starts a new project of enlightenment, where we decided that everything which can be justified by human reason, can be experimented in labs, can be refuted or challenged, or can be critically evaluated, those ideas can only govern the human life. And this was the starting point of particularly the modern political theory, with the idea of modern nation state in 16th, 17th century, when we can say in England, Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, who started with the artificial idea or artificiality of the state and nature of a state, when they are saying that human beings have entered through contract to save the right to self-preservation, natural liberty or life, and that's why they came into a state. And this was a starting point of the modern political theory, where a state came into picture, and human being realizes that until and unless we are not having an institutional arrangement to regulate our life, it will be difficult for us to have a harmonious life or non-conflictual life. Because now here the basic question starts: why human being decided to participate in such activity to create a state? And here the basic idea or the basic notion of political starts with. Now we have to decide, define what is political, and how political demanded to have a theory that is called political theory. So if we see the idea of the problem of political theory today, the problem of political theory today is the crisis of human life are increasing with the development in other spheres of life. We are looking to make life more livable and purposeful by dissuading war, conflict and destitution all over the world. For example, and how this idea of political theory is where we are engaging in our day-to-day life can be easily think of the present example. Today, Government of India or Election Commission has announced election for 2014 general election, and all the parties and leaders are trying to reach to the people so that they can capture the institution of power. And why they want to capture the institution of power? They want to capture the institution of power to control the decision making process. Why they want to control the decision making process? Because it is a decision making process through the state and state machinery, that is called government and wings of the government, legislature, judiciary and executive. Through this decision-making process, resource distribution has to be decided, and the ultimate aim is not only to distribute the resources of the society, but to have a social harmony and to ensure egalitarian society. So this entire idea of just society or egalitarian society that human beings are striving for or looking for is basically the contribution of political theory in our day-to-day life or in our day-to-day human relationship. So political theory has to play a very important role to understand not only the society but also how social orders are related to each other. A. B. How institutional mechanism can be knitted or can be weaved in such a way that it can address the demand of the people. And C. This also decides the political theory help us to understand how the bonding between institution and individual can be explained and can be regulated, so that individual must have a faith in the institution and institution must have legitimacy of the individuals or the citizen, on the basis of which institution's decision can be respected, can be followed, can be obeyed as a matter of rule of law by the individual or by the citizens. So in modern democracy, the idea of political theory is very important, not only to understand the existing social problems but also to understand how these social problems can be solved, how people can be inspired to participate in the process which can ensure the establishment of a just social order and just political society. So this was the basic idea that why we need to address the problems of political theory today. If we see as I have just spoken about the idea of institution and the idea of individual and how institution and individual relationship can be defined, the political theory, the nature of individual and his or her relation to the society, the concept of citizenship and such closely related issues are kind of democratic order appropriate to it in a condition of social diversity. So we are having a lot of social diversity. Even for the election we are going, party A is saying that we are giving you reservation, party B is saying that we are giving you nationalism. So this kind of diversity are always there in the human life. So human life is much of diversity, much of pluralism. So that's why the political theory is coming up with the new theory of environment, multiculturalism, feminism, and how these theories can give citizens a space to articulate their notion of institution, their notion of democracy, and they can participate in the concept of political at large. The significance of contemporary politics, of the increasing importance of global at the expense of national and national context and local context. So we are looking at a different kind of situation where the national challenge at one side, global challenge at the other side, because war in Iraq or war in Afghanistan or war in Russia or Uzbekistan it can't leave us untouched. We have to address those issues also. So the political theory also give you the tools and the analysis or method of analysis that you can understand not only the individual interest of the citizens of that country but also the national interest and how the national how India is supposed to participate in the foreign affairs, so that it can contribute not only to the Indian citizens but also the citizens of the world at one point of time. So now we have nationalism, now we have idea of cosmopolitanism, globalism. So these are the new concepts in political theory that are coming, and they are challenging the existing social order day by day. The significance of contemporary politics, of the increasing importance of global at the expense of national, I have just explained. The revisions of necessary to prevailing conception of political theory itself, it is to regain the capacity to illuminate the contemporary world. So how political theory is addressing the issues of contemporary world, it is very important to understand. That's why I say until unless we are not able to understand the development of political theory, its different phases, why one phase was addressing its different kind of problem than the other phase, and how both these problems and their redressal can be connected in totality to understand the human progress, the human society. So these are the challenges to the political theory that we are trying to address today. Now all the challenges have a different kind of context. Challenges are not in abstract. So political ideas are also not working in abstract, they are working in certain conditionalities. So entire idea of political comes out from a conditionalities under which human beings used to live their day-to-day life. So during the past 2 decades, if we see, the dissatisfaction with the established political category has been increasing, because now initially we used to talk about male, female. Now we are talking about the gay marriage, gay sex. So new challenges are coming, and the old existing legal and political and social categories, which used to define the social and political process, are not able to exactly capture the new dimension, the new developments. So, for instance, in India, for long we are talking about Article 377 and decriminalizing the homosexuality. So, these kind of new challenges which coming to political theory, and political theory has to address all these challenges. Otherwise, if the political theory fail to address these challenges, then there will be a institutional crisis we used to see in the terms of movement. So political theory job is not only to define the institutional limits or institutional mechanism by which these challenges can be addressed, but also try to understand and explain the new challenges for the institutional arrangement. If the civil society or the other organization are not able to, for instance, not able to explain the idea of homosexuality and the rights of the people who are gay or who are lesbians, then it will be difficult for institutional order or the law to contain those kind of demands, because we can't contain such demands for a longer time. After all, they are also citizens of India, and they also have expectations from the institutional arrangement, from the law, from the decision making, and that's why they are also making their own political demands, and they are also defining the idea of political, where the largest citizen body is coming. They are also saying we are also part of the citizenship, and we also have our own idea of political that need to be addressed by the institutional arrangement. So this kind of dissatisfaction is coming with the old categories or with the old conceptualization of concepts of political theory, and that need to be addressed today by the different understanding the different dimensions of political theory. Next important area in the political theory is in that's why coming up, because initially we used to think human being, society, and broadly we used to divide the entire concept of politics into liberalism and Marxism, where the idea of a state decides about the nature of institutional arrangement. For instance, liberalism is talking about individual and social interaction is based on the idea of individual liberty, whereas the Marxism is saying that the entire interaction of human being and institutional order is based on the idea of class, because the modes of production used to every in the society or in the civilizational process, every civilization or every society has its own kind of mode of production, and mode of production is related with the means of production plus relations of production. So these relations of production has been produced and reproduced through different arrangement. So entire social arrangement and institutional arrangement has been broadly divided into two parts, that is Marxism and liberalism. But later on, with the advent of 20th century, with new development in science and technology, new development in the notion of community, new development in the notion of identity, particularly women identity, disabled identity, lot of identity issues came into the politics, and now the greater responsibility of the political theory was to address these new issues. How political theory can address the issue of recognition for disabled, for marginalized, for Dalits in India, for example. How we can address the issue of Khap Panchayat. That's why we are talking about communitarian theory in political science, where the community, where we are thinking that individual is not situated in abstract, where he can only demand his freedom, but individual is totally embedded in a community. And Michael Walzer, Charles Taylor, many other people came with such demand, and they said that the mainstream political theory need to understand the demand of communitarianism, identity, feminism, liberalism, citizenship, democracy, power and authority, legitimacy, nationalism, globalization, and environment. These are the basic issues. Always try to capture the entire imagination of political theory, and how political theory can deal with these issues, and how political theory can help us in conceptualize and theorize these issues are the important aspects of political theory in 21st century. That's why we need to understand how old political theory and the new political theory can be mixed up, or can be interfaced with each other to develop in a new political theory, or we can say to develop the new ideas which can address the social problems not only of India, all over the world. So these are the new inventions, these are the new conceptualization in political theory that is going on. Many theorists all over the world are working. Now we have to understand politics, political and theory. What are the relationships? So as I have already explained, politics is a participatory process to change the society for betterment of. Now the greater responsibility of the political theory was to address these new issues. How political theory can address the issue of recognition for disabled, for marginalized, for Dalits in India, for example. How we can address the issue of Khap Panchayat. That's why we are talking about communitarian theory in political science, where the community, where we are thinking that individual is not situated in abstract, where he can only demand his freedom, but individual is totally embedded in a community. And Michael Walzer, Charles Taylor, many other people came with such kind of demand, and they said that the mainstream political theory need to understand the demand of communitarianism, identity, feminism, liberalism, citizenship, democracy, power and authority, legitimacy, nationalism, globalization, and environment. These are the basic issues. Always try to capture the entire imagination of political theory, and how political theory can deal with these issues, and how political theory can help us in conceptualize and theorize these issues are the important aspects of political theory in 21st century. That's why we need to understand how old political theory and the new political theory can be mixed up, or can be interfaced with each other to develop in a new political theory, or we can say to develop the new ideas which can address the social problems not only of India, all over the world. So these are the new inventions, these are the new conceptualization in political theory that is going on. Many theorists all over the world are working. Now we have to understand politics, political and theory. What are the relationships? So as I have already explained, politics is a participatory process to change the society for betterment of individual living. It ensures collective decision making through institutionalized mechanism for the exercise of power. So politics is basically a process, and that's why politics is dialogical through negotiation and representation, dynamic and changing. Politics is not a static politics is a very dynamic process, dynamic and changing according to the needs of human society. Individual self-interest and creative self-realization are core of the social process. So we are participating in the process of politics not because external forces are asking us to participate. We are participating in the process of politics for our own benefit. So first, this is because the moment we are participating in social process, we are participating in social process for our self-interest or interest maximization. We try to maximize our interest in terms of glory, in terms of position, in terms of power. So we used to try to develop our position, maximize our interest, but at the same time, the idea is that the creative self-realization means if I wish to become a cricketer, I should be allowed to become a cricketer. I should be given a chance to become a cricketer. If I wish to become a teacher, I should be given a chance, given the library facility, given the teaching facility. So these are the minimum expectations with which we are entering into the social process. And this actually, when 16th, 17th century, we see social contract theory, a human being have entered to the institutional arrangement of a state just to have this kind of creative self, or to realize their creative self. That's why we enter into the process of politics. So what is the actual meaning of political we can think of now? Political has multiple meanings, because its meaning is most of the time decided by the context in which we are talking, decided by the situation which we are trying to address. So political, it is a collective power to take decision about the every aspects of good life in community. Here, when I am talking about collective power, I am talking about power in terms of legitimacy, law, or also in terms of ethical values. For instance, Arvind, take the new experiment of Aam Aadmi Party or other party. They are talking about honesty. So this is the ethical value. You are trying to have a social power or electoral power in terms of your ethical intervention, because they are saying Bhashtachar is not only as per se the loss of exchequer, but also a non-ethical practices in governance, and it has to be checked. So the political means the collective power to take decision. This is the idea of political power of some groups to control or subordinate other groups. So the moment we are fighting for power in any format, the basic idea is to capture the resources, distribute the resources, but it also have different facets where we try to subordinate others or try to dominate others. why we want to have this power, even as a member of party or as a cadre of party or as a member of political community, we try to have this political power to have our own self-interest, to fulfill our own self-interest. And how we can fulfill our self-interest? We can fulfill our self-interest using the institutionalized power of a state apparatus. For instance, I am an educated person, I need a job. So where I will give my application for the job, and then I will compete for the job. So here I am trying to engage myself with the social structure or the state institution, and this is the basic idea of political, which motivates me to, because I know that the rules of the competition are already stated in public, and if I score such and such marks, I can get this job, I can get this award. So this kind of involvement that make me political to participate in such process. Next idea of political is to create a value system. For instance, we have talked about the idea of Haman Madi. We are talking about idea of honesty. So we are saying that honesty is the best policy. The moment we are saying honesty is the best policy, we are trying to stick ourselves to a value system where we are not able to tolerate any kind of corruption, and that's why we are saying we have to be honest. So this kind of value system, engagement with the value system, is also the idea of political, which political theory is trying to conceptualize or trying to explain. Now we can say the idea of I have to participate in government, and we can say how you can participate in the process of government on the basis of your just ideas. You have to participate in election. And what is the election? Election, if somebody is getting 51 votes and other is getting 49 votes, 51 votes will be winner, and he will be able to take decisions. So the idea of political is always guided by notion of both normative as well as empirical. Normative means all your political ideas are guided by certain kind of norms, value system. Honesty is one norm, respect is another norm, that we are supposed to respect our elder persons, and that's why we have an elderly persons law, senior citizen law. Similarly, our idea of political, to participate in a process, as I have already explained, if I am participating in any competition, I have to know about the rules of that competition, and I will only fight on the basis of those established rules. I will not say that I have to make rule for myself, and on the basis of that rule I can only fight in the competition. So this rule can be empirically checked out, that if certain person is getting 50 marks, he is getting job, and if certain person is getting 49 marks, he will not able to get a job because the cutoff marks is 50%. So this can be also empirically proved on the basis of data, on the basis of result. You can also prove that my involvement with the institutional arrangement for my self-interest can also be regulated through the empirical ideas. One can say, Mr. So-and-so, you have participated in the competition, but unfortunately you were not able to score so much of marks that you can qualify the exam. So you are not able to enter into job. So these are the process where we participate, and this entire idea of my participation, driven by my self-interest, is the basic idea of political. Why I am political, why you are political, why other society members are political in nature, because they participate in social process to ensure their self-interest, to enhance their self-interest with the help of established rule, because everybody has an interest, and the moment there are many interests, there are competition. The moment there are competition, we need a rule. The moment there is a rule, we need an executor. The moment we have an executor, we need a judiciary to judicate upon how the rule has been executed with partial intention or not partial intention. These are the issues that political theory is trying to address.
We can say in this manner we are structurizing our organization
Exactly.
in this very manner.
Exactly.
If we know that these are the issues, and now with the help of this, we can basically organize and structurize the organization.
Exactly. Political theory ultimately helps how institutions can be organized, but organization means not only you are having organization having 6 rooms, 12 barandas and space. It is all about ideas on why you are trying to organize something.
Knowing the problem first and then finding the solutions for it.
So you are saying our edu state is trying to organize the idea in such a way that it can disseminate the knowledge. We can disseminate the process of knowledge using the ICT, information technology, for a longer distance. So your idea was that my idea of the idea of edu-state is that social change can only be ensured through the education. How this education can be imparted? There are different ways of imparting education: classroom, non-classroom method. Now with the development in information technology, we decided that this can also be knowledge can also be disseminated without classroom, and that we are trying to do from this place. So this is the basic idea of engagement of every individual. How not to, so here I am not only satisfying my interest, but I am also satisfying or catering to the interests of the students who are watching this program. Now come to theory. Why this conceptualization need a theory? Why we have to theorize these things? So, what is theory? A theory is a systematic reflections with the following features. First, conceptual sensitivity. We try to conceptualize the thing. Second, there should be some kind of rational structure. How this conceptualization can be done on the basis of rationality, not on the basis of individual bias, not on the basis of religion, not on the basis of caste. That is, no rationality should be there. Aspiration for a humanly achievable truth. If I am saying I can give everybody aeroplane in India, it is not a viable option, or it is not a viable thing which can be theorized. We can theorize that I will try, or government can try to make every human life more better. Making better doesn't mean that everybody own an aeroplane, because in that situation, how many airports you required, how many airways you required. So that's why we say aspiration of humanly achievable truth. How this objective can be humanly possible to achieve. Then generalizing the things. How we can generalize some kind of notion or some kind of story. Then explicit mandate to unearth the assumptions and presuppositions, that we are trying to, what are the presuppositions behind this. If somebody is doing, if I am thinking that my society should not be based on the idea of caste, so why I am thinking that it should not be based on the caste? Because in principle I am following the principle of equality. So since I am following the principle of equality, I will say that society should not be either based on caste, creed, or any kind of affiliation. Then a strong speculative element. We can try to understand the social change. For instance, if we are saying that now a different section of a marginalized section, or one can say women are getting organized to challenge the political power, means we can say that since society has not done gender justice in terms of their institution, in terms of the regulation, that's why women are getting conceptualized, and we have to address the issue of gender justice. So we must have the speculative. That's why institution and rules and governments are speculative about the phenomena. So similarly, if we are talking about other discipline, for example, commerce. What commerce is doing? We are speculating the rise and fall of share market. Accordingly, we are investing in the market. So what the share market theory is trying to conceptualize? Conceptualize the trends, in possible trends or possible speculation in the change of market due to buying, due to selling. So every subject have certain kind of a speculative aspect, and that speculation can be done with the help of theory. In politics also, we are speculating that right wing, left wing, this kind of politics will go up, this kind of politics will go down. Or this is also a duty of the political theorist or duty of a political analyst to understand or speculate the situation, so that if there are dangers, if there are problems, that can be addressed before or in advance. Now we have seen we have discussed about the politics, we have discussed about political, we have discussed about theory, why we need political theory, we have discussed. Now we will try to define exactly what political theory can be. So definition of political theory and how this definition has developed through the entire historical process that I have already explained. Defining political theory. Generally political theory reflects on the general condition of entire humankind, of the values by which the entire humanity may govern its life. It is a particular form of systematic reflections on the collective power to take decision about the good life of a community, the mechanism by which power is exercised by one group or another group, the use of power to achieve good of the community, the use of a state by one group to exercise power over other, or the value by which community governs its life. So this definition of political theory indicates one thing, that political theory has two aspects: normative, there are certain norms that you have to follow, and also the experimentable practices. Like the election is one kind of experimentable practice where we are guided by the notion of fact. Candidate A got 49% of vote, candidate B got 51% of vote, that's why candidate B is winner and candidate A is loser. Similarly, but how, on what basis this the person have voted? So we have made a rule that nobody will try to attract the voter on the basis of caste, religion. They will not give any kind of speeches which can inflame the issues. So both things are going side by side. One, norms, which is controlling the process, and other is the data or the factual sheet, which is giving the idea of the changing of institutional process. So this is the political theory, and this political theory has developed through different stages. Need of political theory. Why do we need exactly political theory? Understanding the world, explaining the world, doing predictions about the human changes, how human changes can be read. Ethics. What are the ethics on the basis of which change can be governed or change can be allowed to or to go further. Normative aspects on the norms, law, and metaphysical self-knowledge, that we are also trying to connect ourselves with the cosmic life, that God and entire aspects we are trying to conceptualize, because we can't say that we are living in abstract. We are living in a social political order where not only human beings, non-human beings are also important. That's why we are, for instance, to have our environmental issues and Safe Tiger project. Safe Tiger project, this can also be conceptualized by the notion of political science, where we are talking about the environmentalism, the new trend in political theory, that human being cannot be talked about only sovereignty, law, or power, or justice, or rights of human being only. They also have to talk about the rights and existence of other beings, because they can't live alone, they can't live in isolation. Now the disasters that which is coming and which is damaging the human life is much more of concern for the political science. That's why in political theory the new disciplines, the new sub-disciplines are coming on: climate change, coming on environment, coming on new issues. So political theory, that's why I say, is a dynamic subject, and its changes and continuities are depending on the issues that humankind are facing at one point of time. If we are facing this disaster problem, last year Uttarakhand we have worst disaster that India have faced in recent past. So we decided that there should be a strict environment rule before giving a license to any industry. We must have this requirement. Environment Ministry is there to check any kind of. So the entire now you can go back and think that 25 years ago we don't have Environment Ministry. Now we have an Environment Ministry. So similarly, the social requirements or individual requirements are changing with the advancement of civilization, and accordingly political theory also need to supplement itself to address the new challenges.
We can say that we are taking from the society and giving back to the society in this very political form that we have chosen this area.
No, political theory is basically trying to do two things when we are talking about. First, we used to study only the interaction between individual and society. Means individual and society means we are mostly talking about the human species. Nowadays, we are talking about individual, society, and nature. We have extended the boundary of political theory to include the non-human species, non-human environment also.
Demarcated the various factors in the area.
Included so many new issues which can also ultimately affect the human life. So I told you that we have included because in the interest of mankind, it is the interest of mankind that we must have a clean environment. So these are now political science. First it was individual, then it was individual and society. So through the interaction of individual and society, we created the state and government. But in last 100 years, after governing human being or human society in terms of different state or in terms of different nation, we realize that ultimately it is the nature where we are living. It is not the state. So now political theory is trying to capture about the idea of nature and human interaction, not only the interaction of human being and society, human being and a state.
Everything which is affecting us.
Exactly, exactly. So anything affecting us or anything can change our life is basically the motto of political theory, or basically the objective, ultimate objective of political theory, to ensure a better life. So now stages of political theory, how it has developed. Political theory developed as a history of political ideas first, where we try to understand Plato to Marx or the contemporary political thinkers. So this was one phase of political theory. But after so many developments in science and technology, with 2 world wars, we decided that political theory cannot be only a historical process of studying the ideas. So scientific elements started attacking those who were doing the traditional kind of political theory. So we have positivism, logical positivism, linguistic turn, economic model building, behavioralism, post-behavioralism, postmodernism, communitarianism, multiculturalism. These are the different facets of political theory that came up into picture with the development in social and political order in entire development of civilization. First, for instance, political theory before First World War, political theory after Second World War, there is a huge change, because requirements before First World War, nobody has conceptualized that there will be a war which will engage through all the countries of the world. And that's why we came with the idea of having international brotherhood and having a peaceful coexistence, and that's why we came with League of Nations, then United Nations. So always you have a requirement, and according to requirement, political theory will try to address those requirements with certain ideas, and how those ideas can be translated into institutional mechanism. When we decided that international peace and security is very important, and that's why we came with the idea of United Nations. That United Nations will be a larger body represented by all over the world, and they will try to interfere where there is a danger on the human life or danger on the human rights. So we have human rights, we have United Nations, International Labour Organization, International WHO. So this kind of institutional mechanism came with the requirement of society or disturbances in the social order at different point of time. So these stages of political theory need to be understand why they came up and what were the different regions or different conditions that forced political theorists at that point of time to came with the idea. So first I said that political theory was introduced as a sub-discipline of political theory merely more than 100 years ago. But initially at the advent of 20th century in 1900, 1901, it was basically taught in this university departments as a history of ideas. What kind of ideas? Idea of Plato about republic, idea of Aristotle about politics, idea of Machiavelli about the prince, idea of Hobbes about the social contract or sovereign power, idea of Locke about the liberty and rights, idea of Rousseau about the direct democracy or participatory democracy, idea of Mill about the property, idea of John Stuart Mill about the women participation in political process, idea of Karl Marx about the scientific socialism, about the class relation of the society. So it was till 19th century we were trying to understand the notion of politics or notion of political science in terms of history of ideas. Means whatever happening before them, they used to write in the form of book, and they have produced different classics, and we used to read those classics and try to understand or try to find those ideas in our contemporary society. But as I have already explained you, in 18th, 19th century, this was the scientific era where many scientific methods were experimented, from medicine to physical sciences to atom bomb to guns. Everything was introduced in the human life. So human life was becoming more complex. More other methods were also affecting the development of political theory, like development in anthropology, development in sociology, development in science, development in biological sciences, all were also affecting the nature and method of political theory. So by 1920s, when Charles Merriam introduced the scientific element in political theory, an entire new movement, we can say, in political theory, our approaches to study political theory started, and this movement called positivism. Positivism is anything which can only be proved through the idea of experimentation. Means you were saying that I am looking at this glass, and since it is a glass, that's why I believe that it is a glass. So this entire experiment things came, but soon after that, in 1930s, after economic crisis, after new kind of changes, before the First World War, people realized that core scientific method may not be the exact tool to understand the social problems, because you can't understand the problem of cancer equally as the problem of religious rights, or you can say community rights, because there are two different. So they said that scientific method can be used to explain the social process, but entirely the social process is based on, or social theory is based on, so many other things. For instance, language is a structure. That's why people like Habermas, who came with or Wittgenstein, who came with the idea of linguistic turn in the political theory, he is saying that structure of language has a power to change or the idea, or to reflect on the idea. So it is not only science, it is also the other factors that need to be involved. But by that time, by the end of Second World War, we realized that the entire world, or the entire state or nation system, was divided into two ideological camps. One was Soviet Russia, Marxist camp represented by Soviet Russia, and other was American camp represented by United States or capitalist camp. So they also try to, their development also, their segmentation also try to influence the method and theories of political science. And that's why the shift, there is a huge shift in political science from European countries to America, and where people like David Easton and Chicago School came with a new kind of, they try to mix the physical principles of physical sciences plus psychology to came up to understand the political behavior of individual, and they called it the behavioral revolution. So behavioral revolution was completely talking about verification, scientific methods, techniques, but ultimately this method was also rejected, because after Second World War, soon after Second World War, there are many problems that came into United States. For instance, in France, the French Revolution, they were demanding the new kind of social order. In United States in 60s, we have gay rights. So many civil rights movement started in United States of America, and the government think that now we have to think social science into different terms. So they said that post-behavioral phase, and in this post-behavioral phase, we try to take a departure from the hardcore scientific method, and now we can see there is a revival of normative political theory with the publication of John Rawls' theory of justice. John Rawls' theory of justice tried to ensure that human freedom, or the procedural aspect of distributing the social goods of society, must be based on the idea of philosophy. And this philosophy he has talked about in his books, particularly Theory of Justice and Limits of Liberalism. So he also said that liberalism is trying to not being able to capture the other notion. In the meantime, by 80s, there are so many things are happening in the world, wild crisis, OPEC countries are coming, and finally with the decline of Soviet Russia in 1989, we saw a new departure in the political science, and there they come multicultural theorists. There we saw the emergence of communitarian theorists, those who are saying that it is not the society, it is the community where individual starts his life. If I am belonging to a community, I am not an individual and abstract. So in India, we can say those kind of community rights came, Adivasi rights, Dalit right came on the basis of theory of identity, recognition. So a new kind of intervention started in political theory in at the end of 20th century and the starting of 21st century. Now we have to see what are the dimensions and damages that political theory has faced. The challenge of positivism and ideology were largely with the emergence of political science as a professional discipline since 1903, political theory becomes one of the subfields. In 1920, Charles Merriam and University of Chicago School played key role in attempting to make political science more scientific. Behavioralism emerged in the early years of 20th century through its full importance become clear in 1950s. Its philosophical roots lay in the Comte's writings and logical positivism that I have already talked about, the role of science. Then behavioralism remained till 1960s a major ideological domain to talk about political theory. But after behavioralism, new challenges were posed by the social condition or by the human condition, and these the principal reason for there was now people were thinking liberal political theory was failing after. Even that liberal political theory, people like Francis Fukuyama said that with the end of Soviet Union there is an end of ideology, and this end of ideology, he published his book End of History and the Last Man, and he's saying that now there is only one viable option, and that is a viable option of democracy and liberal democracy and capitalism. But within the fold of liberal democracy and capitalism, there are many other issues which are not been able to be able to address by either through the process of globalization. For instance, globalization has created a lot of problems with the people who are at the margins, like Adivasi in India, whose land and other resources has been taken by the state and given to the private companies. So this kind of considerations are coming to the fore of political theory, and the political theory is trying to address these normative ontological problems. Finally, the most important dominant liberal concept of recognition is also trying to attack the traditional political theory and asking for. So after the decline that behavioralism said, the decline of political theory, when we are talking about, we are mostly talking about the decline of normative political theory that was propagated by the behavioralists or mostly by American political scientists. Those who are saying that value-based political science can't be helped because you have to have empirical, you have to have more scientific method to understand the political process of your society. But ultimately, neither it is totally value nor it is totally empirical process that can help us to understand the social process or help the political theories to think about or to theorize about the social sciences. But it should be the mixture of both value as well as empirical process. Then we can have a complete idea of political theory. Now we can talk about the challenges to political theory. The main challenges of political theory today are that how we can go away from the some of the problems of like individual versus society or collective, self versus shared self, citizenship, democracy, and nature of political. How this new institutionalism as a value in itself is coming up. National and global context we have to talk about. Human nature interaction, how human beings are interacting with the nature. Issue of environmentalism need to address immediately with a more rigor. Relationship between moralist and materialist, both the things has to be make a balance. And there are always, is there any universal principle or universal political theory that can be applicable to United States, India, Bangladesh or Pakistan? Or is there any cultural element in the definition of political theory that need to be incorporated with the issues of or with the different principles of political theory? So in conclusion, we can say that political theory as a discipline try to address the problems of various society at different time, but it is dynamic, it is changing, and there are new challenges which is coming to political theory in different shape, and these challenges are coming out of mainly today because of human nature environment, one, and B, due to challenges between and among the states for the power and for other thing. And the moment we are there are good thing about political theory, it try to universalize certain principle like principle of equality, principle of justice, liberty, but at the same time political theory also needs to recognize the issue of identity, culture, because without giving local space or without giving cultural space to individual, you can't ask individual to assimilate and participate in the universal phenomena. So political theory today needs both empirical as well as normative aspect, but ultimately it is a normative or philosophical aspect of political theory that has to be in the center, and it should be supplemented by the empirical fact to understand the social problem or institutional aspect of our social life completely. And this is the job of political theory that political theory is supposed to do. Thank you very much for giving me chance to.
Dr. Ranjan, you have well said that it is a dynamic process. Somewhere we are identifying the problems and then we are trying to find the solutions. But with the passage of time, things are changes, and things changes with, we can say, with a certain decade. In that condition, do you think it is appropriate to change our theories also?
No, it is not we who are supposed to change the theory. It is the social condition and the social process where even theorists may not be participating in that process, but theorist is forced to give focus on those processes. For instance, I am giving one example from India. Due to Forest Land Act, forest resources has been taken by the state, and now the traditional Adivasi people are saying that they have the rights, and how their rights and the issue of their livelihoods, Jal, Jangal and Jameen, issues like this has to be accommodated. So now all the political theorists are talking about idea of community, communitarianism, their ancestral rights, their initial rights, and they are saying that we can't disassociate one community from their livelihood, and that's why we have to address these issues of interaction. Not only it is the importance of a state here that we can note, but it is also the importance of community that is claiming those rights. So this dynamism will always be there in the political science or in the social condition, and that dynamism has to be explained with the help of different concepts and methods of political theory.
You have used the term egalitarian society. We would like you to explain it and elaborate. What is this egalitarian society?
Egalitarian society means society based on the principles of equality, where, see, we have to see that one cannot be talking about a complete equal society. Means a society where every human being is of this height or this weight or this color. We can't ensure that. That is beyond our control. But what we can say, even in a society of multilingual, multicultural society, people can speak Hindi, English, Urdu. They are of shorter height or longer height, but everybody is having the same constitutional guarantee about their fundamental rights. They are having the basic rights to be fulfilled. Their basic rights need not be hampered either by a state or any other group. So a society based on the notions of equality, and where everybody is equal, one statement. But we have to go one step beyond, and we have to ensure that everybody is equal as well as everybody matters equally. Both the things has to be there to have an egalitarian society. And to ensure this egalitarian society, we are devising the new principles of justice, the new rights, the demands for new rights, and this will go on because these processes are dynamic in nature and they have multi-dimension. That's why one dimension, for instance, last 2 decades we are talking about women rights. We are not only talking about 8th March is coming, the International Women Day. So first we started with the sexual harassment law. Now we are talking about their representation in parliament and state assemblies, where we are talking about that these seats should be reserved. So this kind of issues, this is one step towards the egalitarian society, where women representation can be ensured through the legislation, and they can also participate in the decision making process or legislative process equally, as well as men. So they must have a word. So we can ensure that now in parliament this much of women legislatures are there, so they will never allowed to have any kind of legislation which is not going to ensure gender justice in the society.
So far we have discussed about the challenges and the issues we are talking about, how to identify those challenges and issue. But after identifying a certain challenge or issue, does there comes a point then we realize, no, because of this challenge or issue, another more problems are going to arise?
No, you see, recognizing a problem, predicting the problem, explaining the problem, or even giving some kind of solution to the problem is not ensuring that other problems will not come. See, this is the nature of science also, this is the nature of social science also, this is the nature of all academic discipline, whether it is science or social science. Because, for instance, somebody that Einstein has talked about theory of energy, E is equal to mc square. He realized on the basis of, but he never realized that it will ultimately lead to a nuclear bomb. So new invention came. Now there are two kinds of scientific theory. One scientific theory we are talking about, no, we must have to talk about, we have to supplement the energy requirement of the world. That's why we need nuclear power plant. At the same time, some people are saying, no, to have a mighty nation, we must have nuclear bomb too. So both the kind will go on. It doesn't mean that you should stop the experimentation in nuclear physics. It is not. Similarly, in political science, when we are trying to address the, for instance, issue of Dalit by giving them reservation, by taking them into the mainstream fold, that doesn't mean that Dalit other problems. Now we can say Dalit problems can be issued, but Dalit women problem has not been issued till yet. When we are talking about Dalit women problem has been issued, but we can say that Muslim women problem has not been issued. So there is in society or in see, we are always endeavoring for a
very well said,
language. We can't ensure about the final solution or the final problem.
You have just ways to say that. We are just hoping for a better society, and for that we are working continuously.
Exactly.
Thank you so very much for coming to our studio and delivering such a nice lecture to all the viewers who are watching us at this time. Thank you very much.